What up, world? What up, world? Your boy is back. A little bit of the raspy voice, a little bit of a golf outing yesterday, so shout out to the team at Premier Payroll Solutions. I am Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector. Shout out to my boys, Vinny Papalardo, Mike D'Onofrio over at Premier, doing a great outing out here on Long Island. And in honor of and really to raise money for Friends of Karen, which is an important organization, important nonprofit organization that does work with families who has a child who is experiencing health issues. So that was a great day. It was a great night. It went a little longer. Sometimes, man, the old Tommy D, he's got to remember to come home early and stop being out too late. But I always say this, gang, especially here on Philanthropy and Focus and everywhere else in my world, I always say if you want to stay out with the night owls, you better be able to rise and fly with the eagles the next morning, baby. So let's do it. It is 10 o'clock in the morning, Tommy D. It's not exactly rise and shine. Although my guest, Fee Fam, is coming from the left coast, so it is a little earlier where he's at. So I did ask you, Fee, really, hey, could you wake up a little early? Apparently, I did that to you. But are you on East Coast time? Are you on West Coast time? Tell me about that real quick, man.
I'm usually on East Coast time, but today I'm out in LA trying to get our work started. So it's technically I'm living West Coast time right now.
All right, all right. Well, I appreciate you being an early riser. The organization is building beats. We're going to get into all that shortly. But what I got to do is, when I say the nonprofit sector connector, I tell you it's all about the relationships. And on the show, I help nonprofit leaders tell their story and amplify their message. And it's all about that here today. And I don't get to meet these cool organizations doing this important work if I'm not connected, if I'm not in relationships, in community. Shout out to Ken Serini and his vision for the Long Island Imagine Awards and now the New York City Imagine Awards, which we are in the fifth year. One of the coolest parts about being on the committee for the Imagine Awards is I get the opportunity after we go through the applications and select the semifinalists. I get the opportunity to reach out to some of these semifinalists and do an interview. And that's how Fee and I met. And that's how we started talking about building beats. And that's how I learned about the organization. I was like, dude, because that's how I talk, dude, you got it. I'd love for you to come on the show. And I kind of said to you, I was like saying to Fee and one of his colleagues, like, I don't usually ask my friend Kellyanne Serini for specific nonprofit semifinalists in that process. But I was like, man, I always wanted a DJ. I always wanted to have Technique turntables. I never bought them. One of my daughters has been saying, Dad, we should get turntables and the whole thing. And I was like, I said to Kellyanne Serini, Kellyanne, listen, I'll do anything. I'll interview whoever you want. However, in this case for the Imagine Awards, hook me up with building beats. So we got that and I got it. And I had the opportunity to meet with Fee. And I was like, dude, I'd love to have you on the show. So what we do on this program every single week is I make the trek from my kitchen all the way up to the attic. And I meet with an executive director, a CEO, a top leader of a nonprofit, as I say, to help them tell their story and amplify their message. And that's what we're doing today. So, Fee, there's a story here. You guys are doing incredible work, empowering over 12,000 at last count of my numbers of my research and even with my write-up that I did, 12,000 young people. So it says on the website, empowering youth through music. There's so much to talk about, man. But even before we get into the work the organization is doing, because I like to do it this way and because that's the way I set up the show, is I want to hear about you, man. I joked with you the first time we met because I didn't know I was going to tell this story, but I guess I am. There was a Met called Tommy Pham, and my show is called Philanthropy in Focus, Phocus, for those of you just checking in who didn't know that by now. But there's a Met guy, a baseball guy called Tommy Pham. And for some reason, I was just digging his last name. My name is Tommy, and Pham, like family, right? Although spelled with PH. And I was like, told my son about this, my older of two, and he was like, he started to collect the Tommy Pham cards. So I got a stack of Tommy Pham Mets cards that shout out to Tommy Pham, brother. If you ever run a foundation or you
I need
create
a jersey.
yeah, I'm telling you, I'm going to get a Tommy Pham jersey. They're probably, no offense to Tommy Pham, but they're probably not like Soto jerseys and stuff like that. They're probably not selling like as quick as a Juan Soto jersey. But shout Tommy Pham, if anybody puts this in front of you, reach out to me, TommyD.NYC on the Instagram. And if you got a foundation or something you're out there doing for the nonprofit world, you just want to say, hey, it's my biggest fan. See what I did there? Anyway, let's get into it, Fee Fam. So I got it, and you got that alliteration going on with the PH and the PH and the whole thing, man.
For
So
sure.
I want to hear your story, man, your background, what brought you to the work, and as I say like what brought somebody to the nonprofit sector. Oftentimes it's like social services, and I did volunteerism or whatever. But then, other people, it's like, you know what? I was really passionate about what it is I do, and I saw that as an opportunity to help people. So the stories are different each and every week. So, sir, welcome to Philanthropy and Focus. Never has there been a better named guest for the show Philanthropy and Focus than Fee Fam from Building Beats. My brother, what's going on? Talk to me about you and your organization, but talk to me about you first. Let's go there.
Yeah, excited to be here. Thanks for just having me, getting the chance to talk about building beats. It's been a while since I've even had a chance to talk about myself, but yeah, happy to talk about all
That's
that
what I do.
story.
A lot of times we don't get to do that, man. So who are you, bro? What's your story, man?
These days I do a little of everything, especially for the organization. I'm now, this is going to be my 13th year about leading the org officially, but it was an idea of mine in 2009 as how the organization was kind of birthed. This was my senior year of college. I was in a neuroscience lab. I was majoring in neuroscience, cutting rat brains. And I remember sitting there cutting rat brains that this idea just came to me. It's like I wanted to start music programs for young people around the world. And I wanted to use the internet to have them connect and collaborate online. So that was like the seed of how I came up with building beats. I remember when the idea came to me, I had to take a break from my rat brain cutting. I walked and paced the hallway. I was like, I think I can make this happen. I think I can make this happen. Remember, 2009 was kind of the beginning of the growth of the Web 2.0, social media, connecting artists and musicians in different places. I was influenced by all the artists and stuff that were making music, connecting and collaborating online. And I was like, why can't we make, opportunities for young people to be able to do that? So I remember specifically, it was the summer. It was probably August 2009, where that was, how I came up with that idea.
Wow. All right, dude. That's too much there. There's so much there. So let's first of all, I got a visual, and I know you all did too, of my man cutting rat brains. I don't even know what that's about. That's like a whole nother trip. I could just talk to you about that for a couple hours. But uh, did first of all, where'd you grow up, and why were you on a track to go into neuroscience? Like, how does that even happen, man?
So I was born and raised in Colorado.
Okay.
I spent my first 18 years in Colorado. Growing up, you know, I guess the roots of building beats started earlier. I remember this was probably fourth grade when I got my own radio and started listening to. I saw on TV a commercial for this hip hop radio station in Colorado at the time, and for some reason that beat on that commercial was so catchy to me. So I always tune into that radio show or radio station, and that's when I just got the bug for hip hop.
Yeah.
And I remember laying in my closet, listening to my radio, listening to these songs. I was so obsessed. I was writing down the lyrics. And that was just, it got me into hip hop culture, hip hop music in all sorts of ways. By middle school, I think it was sixth or seventh grade, I got into breakdancing. I had a friend who introduced me to a breakdance studio. So I spent my middle school years just learning how to breakdance. And it was actually visiting the West Coast after my eighth grade summer that my uncle, who was dating a woman at the time, whose brother had turntables. So he introduced me to turntables and scratching, and I was like, that is cool. I didn't even know what DJing was, but since then I was like, I need to get my own turntables. I gotta get into DJing. And I spent a few summers working at my dad's physical therapy office to save up for my own pair of turntables. I think I finally got it. Sometime it was either freshman year or sophomore year of high school that I got my turntables, and that just opened me up to the DJ world. And I think, like I said, fourth grade was the introduction to hip hop music, but I was going through all the different kind of aspects of the dance side, then the DJ side. I never got into the rap or graffiti side, but my doodling, I guess, would count
Right,
as
right, right,
graffiti.
right. That's funny, man. So wow. So old school B-boy, man, just bouncing around, right? Head spins, the whole deal. I mean, do you get real in that work or what?
I was definitely not that intense. I was an eighth grader, just doing some top rock, six steps, some
Yeah,
freezes here and
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love. How old are you, man? Because I'm trying to picture what era you grew up during.
I'm 38 now, so I grew up. I remember my first pair of turntables was 2001. So
Okay.
this was Yeah, yeah. That
Oh,
was
at that point in 2001, we're talking about vinyl still then,
still
or
vinyl. So I
right?
was collecting vinyl. My first 4 or 5 years was getting records every weekend, going to record shops, getting records.
That's good.
Going to my grandparents and seeing like they had some records, like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be getting, and trying to dig into some of their stuff and just like figuring out where I can get records at the time.
I don't want to say things that are going to make me look like I don't know all the details, but I'm just going to say this. I remember, so I was born in 78, right? And I remember, I told you this when we first met, A Tribe Called Quest was like, that was it for me, man. Like, that was just, Q-Tip, obviously, right? But they were digging in the crates, man, right? They were getting those old school jazz records and they were sampling stuff off of there and things like that. And that was like, a different scene in hip hop, man. When listen, Tribe is just up there, always will, in my mind, and I think in a lot of people's mind who are in this world know that is just they were a top notch, man, and they just influencing, but just really differentiating. So when you talk about things like looking at your records in your grandparents' basement and stuff like that, what was the angle there? I mean, was it looking for samples? Was it looking for things you could, use while you were DJing? Talk to me about that.
I don't think it was sampling so much for me, but it was. I've always saw these big discs that my grandparents had. I was like, what is this? So I decided to put it on. I don't know if it was totally my vibe at that time, but during my era, it was kind of mashup culture. Z Trip was doing stuff. I think that's kind of my original kind of idea is like, let me try to get some of these tracks and mix them up with, some modern records, some acapellas, and see if I can make something from there.
Yeah.
So I guess it was kind of the evolution of sampling to kind of the mashup blend period of kind of the music era.
I like that. I like that. Well, we're gonna go to break in a second, but before we do that, because I mean, if I was not the host of this thing, but if I was listening, I'm like, wait a minute, man, this dude, neuroscience, and then now we're talking turntables. He was cutting open a rat's brain and, doing some experimentation, right? Trying to learn there. I want to know, when we come back, are you a neuroscientist? Don't even answer it yet, but are you? Right? Or where did that change? And that did we go, all right, we're putting that over here right now, put these rats aside, and let's put the music on the forefront. But we're going to talk about that because Building Beats is a very important organization empowering young people through music, but there's AI conversations, there's so many different things going on. So we come back, fam, Tommy D in the attic, right back.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Brancu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a purpose-driven individual looking for deeper healing, clarity, and growth? Welcome to the Expansion Room, a transformative space for purpose-driven individuals. I'm Siobhan Larice, host, licensed therapist, and coach. Join me every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static Join Tommy in his attic.
All right. Listen, shout out to all the beat builders out there. That song is written and sung or sang, or my friend was the singer or is the singer, Brendan Levy. I never know if it's sing, sang, sung. But either way, Brendan was singing that song. But I'm shouting everybody out because maybe, not maybe, I think we need an upgrade. 226 episodes of this program. So maybe, Fee fam, we got some guys maybe playing around with the beat for Tommy D's show. We have to talk about it. Still, I still want to hear nonprofits need connections to move in the right direction. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in the attic. But maybe there's something with that attic, 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 attic. We could just drop, dude. Like we'll talk about that later on. Let's get back to this, man. So it's 2009. We figured out it's August of '09. You're at this point, right? You're studying neuroscience. Did you finish that program or what? What happens there?
Yeah, I graduated with double majoring in neuroscience and psychology.
Okay.
But 2009 was also crazy times, the recession. I graduated in one of the stranger times. I, it's weird to say that considering the last couple of years has also been also crazy. But
Yeah, man.
2009, I I had taken the MCAT. My parents, always wanted me to go to med school. Growing up, I thought I wanted to be a doctor, or neurosurgeon. That was always kind of my dream and vision, but kind of the music bug was a part of my life all throughout. Like I said, from my middle school, high school days, DJing just became a part of me. In high school, my first really big introduction to a community that really helped me grow up was actually being a part of a radio show, a college station radio show in Colorado. Shout out Base Mentalism. All those guys really taught me about just, yeah, the music culture, putting on shows. I would be going probably like 2 to 3 shows every week. So just meeting folks in the hip hop community in Boulder and Colorado.
So a couple things really quick. First of all, Red Rocks uh, out of this world.
Amazing. Yeah.
Out of this world. Gang, if you don't know, I mean, you got to check out Red Rocks. I saw Reggae on the Rocks a couple of years ago. It's a group I love listening to called Revolution, and it was just an amazing show. And I mean, I was there from the middle of the day, right? So sun is shining, into later in the evening, where as the sun goes down and the sun set on the rocks, man, like what a place. I have to guess, being from Colorado, living there a long time, you've been to a lot of shows there, or at least a handful.
I've been to a handful, but definitely memorable. One of my favorite shows, I saw the Roots there. That was amazing. They had opened for Wilco, so it was Wilco and the Roots. So that was really cool.
God, I
I
love the Roots,
remember
man. I grew up on that stuff, man. Like the Smoke and Grooves tour and stuff like that. But again, I'm 47. I'll be 48 in a couple months, so there's like a different era. But just that is such a great place to see a show. And love the Roots to this day, man. I was listening to Philadelphia Half-Life album like last weekend while I was cleaning the attic. Yes, gang, the attic is clean. Doesn't mean everybody should show up here, but I was cleaning it the other day, man. So that's that's such a cool place. So the radio station, were you actually DJing parties, or was it more as a hobby for you, or were you the guy up on the platform?
in high school, I started getting booked at some school dances, so some parties here and there. My first gig, my friend was part of this anti-tobacco club at
Okay,
school. So it was a barbecue to like kind of encourage kids to, not smoke.
right.
And I remember I put in like so much preparation time. I wrote down my set list and I'm there and there's like, 10 people who show up to the event. But it was nice. I always
Everybody else.
remember as my first gig.
Well, because I think
Um,
everybody else was outside smoking cigarettes, probably. That's why they weren't. You're fine.
exactly. Yeah. But I,
Wow.
I always remember it as my first gig. So that just got me started in terms of at least performing out live. But
Yeah.
my junior, senior year of high school, I was DJing school dances. And then for whatever reason, I always thought I would go to school on the West Coast, but I got a decent scholarship. I got into NYU, so that's what brought me to New York. I had never visited New York City really before. I had gone for like a New Year's trip
Yeah.
my senior year actually. I was like, let me apply to NYU. So I got into NYU, and is what brought me to New York in I guess, yeah, fall of 2009.
All
And
right, so let's talk about that. So we go back to the
oh,
MCAT,
sorry, 2005.
2005.
2005.
You finish it up on 09. You take the MCATs, right? Did you go to medical school?
I didn't go to med school. By the time I graduated NYU in 2009,
Yeah,
um, I yeah, med school, the MCAT, it was just way something I wasn't passionate about. I didn't have the drive to keep doing,
yeah.
but I was still very interested in public health. I think international public health is what kind of got me, yeah, got my wheels spinning, and I was like, I want to do this thing. I think I always aspired and dreamed to do something international, just to live around the world, to do other things, to see the world. Public health, I thought was what made sense. From there, I stumbled upon this whole sector called international development. So it's kind of community development work, thinking about health, but more holistically, health, education, working on the family, economic development for a community to try to work and empower and kind of strengthen communities everywhere. So after graduating, I got two jobs. I got one that was teaching in after school programs because that was when I was like, I need to just jump in, work with young people if I really want to learn how to do this building beats thing. I think
Yeah.
by the time that time I already had the name Building Beats.
Do it,
Uh,
right? Yeah. Dude,
and
there was Philanthropy and Focus had a name for 2 years before it had an episode. It had a logo. It was that drawing of me with a necktie, which a necktie I don't even wear for the longest time, man. COVID changed that world. But like that's funny. You knew that was like so that became kind of like a guide star or North Star of building beats.
yeah, so teaching in the after school programs in New York just got my feet wet. But the funny thing is I got hired by this organization called the Leadership Program. So they would use arts programming to integrate leadership skills. And for whatever reason, I actually wasn't teaching music. I was teaching chess in the Bronx, and I was teaching fashion down in Bensonhurst. So chess, I knew. Fashion, I didn't. But they had faith in me. They're like, you can figure it out. And I had to kind of improvise my way through that class. But those kids loved me. And it was just trying to figure out how we create creative arts programming that integrated leadership skills. So that was my afternoon job, was going to these schools, doing after school programming. In the morning, I was interning. I was interning for this startup that was funded by Columbia University, doing international development work. It was Columbia has this institute called the Earth Institute, led by Jeffrey Sachs, and he does a lot of community and international development work around the world. So our startup was kind of consultants for a lot of his projects. So that was me on my journey trying to get into the international development world in the morning, and in the afternoon working on my after school arts programming. So those were my first jobs, and those two things were really kind of helped me on this road of starting building beats in such different ways,
I
right?
love
I think you can take that theme of mashing up, because I mashed up both of learning from the morning stuff to the afternoon stuff to really take me to what ended up being building beats officially in 2013. So
it. Yeah.
the startup, we, ran out of money, shut down. I started working at a foundation because I was still sad. I was like, I want to get building beats going in some sort of way. Um, Around that time, for somewhere around 2010, 2011, I finally was able to try to launch Building Beats. I connected with a lot of folks online, one guy in Brazil, one guy in Newfoundland, Canada. The original vision was, let me just throw parties. Let me reach out to DJs in New York. Let me get equipment donated, and we'll get that equipment and we'll donate it to music programs around the world. So connected with a DJ in Brazil. It was like, let's get DJ equipment down there. And unofficially, that was our first program that we did as Building Beats. Is we had gotten some gear from a lot of local DJs in New York. My partner, who was based in Newfoundland, he came and got all the gear, and he brought it down to our other partner in Brazil. And we launched our first program in Rocinha, which is a favela outside of Rio de Janeiro. And that was kind of the unofficial first Building Beats program. In this is probably 2011 or 12 at the time.
All right, a couple things I got to jump in on. Gang, if you're listening and you're telling me you don't have time to get things done, you're not paying attention to what this man was talking about right here. He's running something in the morning, he's running something in the afternoon. Gang, it's about energy. Find that energy. Where do you find it? Things you're passionate about, right? Many of us get the energy sucked out of us because we don't like to do things that we don't like to do. I'm one of them people. If find what fires you the heck up and drive all the way into that work and make an impact. So, we're Newfoundland, Brazil, New York, all this coming together. And I love how you took, and it's so cool, the theme of how you were able to take mash up that whole idea of mash up the music, but mashing up your interests and bringing it all together, right? And weaving these multiple things that you're up to and that you're into. I'm sure, not because I know, because I'm pretty sure though, that psychology studies, that background helped to drive a lot of the work, right? And probably to this day helps to drive a lot of the work that you do with these young people and helping empower them. I do have to make a quick shout out my friend Carol Berkowitz, who runs Panathis out here on Long Island, which is an organization that works with people who are experiencing homelessness. They run homeless shelters right here on Long Island. And she says, shout out from a Colorado gal. Red Rocks is the best, most beautiful venue. Great memories. Shout out to you, Carol. I appreciate you and the team. And in the introduction last week to Marcos and the opportunity to meet earlier this week about some of the things we're doing at Vanguard Benefits. So just really cool. I appreciate your friendship. And thanks for checking in. Thanks for being one of my fans. I appreciate it. It's good to have friends that are looking out for you. So, all right, Fee. So let's get to it, man. Let's get to well, there's something I want to go back to. This piece where you mentioned Dr. Jeffrey, I didn't jot his name down because you were saying a lot of stuff about the program at Columbia called The Earth. Is that what it's called?
Earth Institute.
The Earth Institute. Tell me about that real quick because that sort of informed I'm understanding the work you wanted to do from a development perspective, which you probably think the same. You are doing that work. You are doing developmental work. You might not be putting a well in a community, right? But you're developing in a lot of ways, right? So I think you're probably living out a lot of what you want. Would you say that?
Oh yeah, definitely. So yeah, my vision, going from the being a doctor, med school, to thinking about public health, to something more broad like development.
Yeah.
I came to learn that, if you wanted to help improve a person, help improve a community, it really, for me, was logically ended up being education. So that's how it morphed me into the space that I've been working on with building beats the last now 12, 13 years. Is education was always the thing that drove me. And I like what you brought up earlier. Yeah, this theme in my life is mashing things up, and
Yeah.
building beats is about mashing things up, is using music as that starting point. But how do we use music to teach people, young people, what we say is life leadership, entrepreneurial skills? But we mash up everything. We try to show young people a whole new way of living, a new perspective and insight into how they can just become better people in the world. Starting with music as that hook to get them involved.
Hey, listen, man, isn't that what we're trying to do? Like I said, so nobody on this show who knows me doesn't know that I got the ADHD, and I embrace my beautiful brain, as my coach calls it, and I think I think a lot of us have, you know, I'm all about neurodivergent and talking about that. And, and certainly I do a lot of work with nonprofits that serve people with intellectual developmental disabilities and with no clinical background. I'm going to tell you, I think we are all on different spectrums, whether it relates to mental health. And you all know me, that's important to me. Hashtag ending the stigma together. And when I talk about these abilities, man, if we focus on what people are good at and just lean in and support what people's interests are and help them, experience that versus trying to make everybody fit into this little box, which I don't know. I don't think anybody fits in that box anyway, but that's a whole other thing. I'm going to go on a tangent. But it's like you're talking about life, leadership, entrepreneurship. Man, these young people are digging the music. They're digging the DJing thing. And then it's like, well, oh, there's an opportunity. They're excited. While someone's excited, let's pour in this good stuff. And right, I mean, that just seems like, I don't know, is it obvious? It seems obvious to me. Like it's just a thing that makes sense. Like get a young person fired up, right? Like when you hear about those teachers that, that were so influential in somebody's life, it was the teacher that got them excited, that got them interested. I don't know why right now I'm seeing Robin Williams standing on the desk, in that was it the Dead Poets Society, whatever. But it was just like, get people, get the juices flowing, get folks fired up about something, man, something to look forward to, and then pour into them the education. What do you think about that, Fee, before we go to break?
That's the whole thesis of the work we do is music. There's so many folks who are passionate about it. It was like, oh, we have this community of people who are so, they live and breathe music. But as a young person myself, just hearing what I said about my histories, music was a part of my upbringing in so many ways. And it was what was driving me in my own nights and weekends as a young student from middle school to high school days is sure, I was on the science route by day, but by night, it was the music stuff that was just keeping me up and, in my bedroom practicing how to DJ and everything. And it's like, how do we harness that energy? I think that energy and getting young people to embrace that energy and help them use that to get them to wherever they want to be in life was just very Dead Poet Society. And I like that.
I'm telling you, man, I love it. Harness that energy. It's so cool, man. And it's just, listen, I go from everything from the Beatles to the Doors to, I mentioned earlier, Tribe Called Quest, Cypress Hill. Then, during the 90s, I was into Nirvana and a lot of that kind of, that grunge scene. I mean, Kurt, listen, I can't believe Kurt Cobain's been gone as long as he has been. And like I said, the Doors, a big Morrison. I love Morrison. And it's just like, and then I like to do, go to Depeche Mode and The Cure, right? And I mentioned Revolution and there's this cool band I found down in Tampa called the Birthday Massacre, man. And I think about Radiohead. And there's just so many different things, like all those different influences, Fee and everybody listening, like just think about like your emotions change, your state changes. There's this rave rap group out of South Africa called The Antwoord, which I think translates, and I might have butchered the name, but I think it translates to The Answer. You know that group?
I remember those guys. Yeah.
That is like, they get me fired up, man, when and it's like hard, like fast beats and the rap. Dude, music has such an impact on us. And, like, I will tell you this, I sometimes like to listen to things that are going to bring me down and a little bit of melancholy. I don't think melancholy is such a bad place to go, man. I like that emotion. I like that feeling. So anyway, music has such an impact on us. And certainly when you can get folks connected to the music, you can get them connected to the leadership and the education and all that kind of cool stuff. So we're going to take a quick break. We come back. I want to go into programmatically what this organization does, what it looks like, what's the look and feel. And then we always get to, as we kind of draw towards the close of the show, is how do we help you, sir? How do we get you connected? What are the relationships? What do you need? So we'll get into that. So we come back from break. You're going to tell me stories about what it's like day in and day out, what your team's about, what they're doing in the programs. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
B-Fam and Tommy D in the attic. Right back.
Misalignment within your sales team or with the client stalls deals and creates unnecessary friction for you and the client, resulting in up to 37% lower win rate. If you're in pre-sales, sales management, or sales enablement, and you'd like to increase revenues, win rate, margins, client satisfaction, and stay competitive, this show is for you. Hi, I'm Art Fromm, host of the Making Seamless Sales Show. Please join me live Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy and Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Hi, I'm Linda Marsanico. The A Train to Sedona is a memoir about my journey to love and compassion. It's also the name of my new broadcast on Wednesdays at 12 noon. When we are spiritual, we embrace possibilities and ideas, which strengthen our mind, body, spirit, health, and wisdom. On the A Train to Sedona broadcast, I plan to interview guests who embrace these expansive practices. Join us on Wednesdays at 12 noon on Talk Radio New York City.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
That's right. Join me in the attic, but not actually. It's a very small room on the top of my house. Like, don't show up on the porch. I really can't fit you up here. But anyway, join me in the attic. Check out the show every single week. Philanthropy and Focus. I will only do this until we hit 5,000 episodes, and then I will really evaluate if we'll go from there. So we got some work to do here, gang. Either way, Building Beats is the name of the organization. If you're watching this video, you're going to see right here the Claire Friedlander Family Foundation Arts and Culture Award. Building Beats, Leap. Learning through an expanded arts program, Omnium Circus, and the Poetry Society of New York. Those are the 4 finalists in the Imagine Awards. Tommy D, what's the Imagine Awards? Well, Tommy D, funny you should ask. So the New York City Imagine Awards is the 5th annual Imagine Awards. There's a countdown clock right here, 46 days until the event, October 28th at Gustavino's, which is right by the 59th Street Bridge in New York City. I've been to every single one of the New York City Imagine Awards. I've been on the committee since the beginning, and then on the Long Island Imagine Awards committee the last 10 or so years. And our agency, Vanguard Benefits, sponsors the Rising Star Award out here on Long Island at the Long Island Imagine Awards. So if you're available, if you're connected to the nonprofit sector, you want to be connected to the nonprofit sector, or you want to meet Fee. Fee, you're going to be there, right, man? You want to meet?
I don't know if I'll be there, but 2 of our teammates should be there.
All right, the team will be there. What I will be there. So if you want to hang out, connect with the organizations that are there, connect with the nonprofits in New York City, you all should come through. All right, let's get back to it. What does this look like in practice? By the way, before you do that, buildingbeats.org, buildingbeats.org, that's the website, which I've been showing a bit throughout the show. Let's talk about it though, FEFAM. What's the story? I like when I use both words, both names, FEFAM. So let's get into that, man. What does this organization actually do?
So yeah, fast forward 2025 is we have built our footprint, strong footprint throughout New York City. After school programming has been our bread and butter, but we're all over. We're in community spaces. We work with libraries. We work in transitional housing spaces. We work in various parts of the justice system. We tell partners, I saw you listed Leap. We've worked with Leap many times through the years. We tell partners we can turn your cafeteria into a music studio. We can turn your classroom into a music studio. I think our big innovation and our magic was we can go anywhere and turn it into a creative space for young people. That has been what we've been doing, primarily music production, DJing. And when I first started Building Beats, it was just DJing, but we grew and expanded into music production. And I would say we do more music production these days than DJing. And then we've also added 2 other services, podcasting. So we teach podcasting. And then we have been piloting, we started this program with Meta to launch a program called Music Coding. So incorporating coding into music making. So those are our 4 things, but we've kind of experimented and done all sorts of stuff. We've done rapping, freestyle workshops. We piloted a breakdance program. So we think about all sorts of kind of things of how we engage young people.
Yeah, man. I love all that. And to walk into a community center or cafeteria and say, we could turn this into a music studio, man. So you got the vision for that, where somebody might just see a cafeteria there. There's this guy on Instagram. I think his name is Ari, and I was just checking him out. I think it was last Friday night. I lost like 3 hours of my life, actually. I started scrolling, and this dude, he goes around the city, right? And he's got like a keyboard, like that he's like not bolted onto his body, but he's got a bracket or something, and he's got a microphone, and he just goes up to people, and then he takes like, maybe be like, he was just like, say something. I'd be like, Tommy D, and he just does all this. And then like, he's got like rappers and stuff that'll just know him, like people see him in the community, and they'll just make a song like in a minute. Like he takes the little sample, makes something out of it, makes a beat, a little bit on his keyboard, and the dude is really, I don't know if you've seen the guy. His name's Ari. I think it's like Ari from NYC or something like that. But it's just, people can be so freaking creative, like if we let ourselves, man. Like there is so much creativity in every human, and it's like, screwing the screw is like maybe what you might have to do for like 8 to 2, 8 to 3, 8 to 4, whatever, because you got to pay the mortgage. But there's so much more you can do in this world. And maybe you don't even need to screw the screw, because maybe you can be creative and make a living being creative and just live there. So, there's just so much of the human experience that is not like doing this thing that sucks, whatever that thing happens to be in somebody's world. What do you think about like just seeing like with the young people that you work with and seeing them just like open up and like be like, oh man, like there's a whole world here for me?
Yeah, it's we call it creative confidence, is when a student leaves our classroom, they grow so much in their creative confidence, and then that opens up their just confidence in everything else. Because when they see themselves as something or someone that can create, and put out something, it's so vulnerable when you make some sort of art and put it out. But when they see others impressed by it, it just hypes them up in terms of like, wow, I can do anything.
Yes.
So the kind of that magic of turning someone who may not have considered themselves a music maker or anything before, afterwards saying, "Hey, I can be a music producer, I can be an artist," and letting them kind of identify as that, I think is a big evolution in our classes with our students.
I love what you said there, have them identify as that, right? Because we all have these recordings that play in our heads, right? I'll
For
even tell
sure.
you personally, man, for the longest time, I was like, I've always been in sales and business development. So I would say things like, oh, I'm a salesman, man. That's what I'll always do, right? And then now I leave you here. No, I'm not going to leave you here. We'll both leave at the end of the show, but I'm heading into the studio to do a couple episodes of Long Island Changemakers, which is another show I do. And one of the guys who I want you to meet, who you might have already connected with, but do you know an organization called Avenues for Justice?
I'm not familiar with them, no.
We're going to talk about it in a second, but my buddy Gamal Willis is coming into the studio for Long Island Changemaker. My point earlier was that what you just said, creative confidence. Dude, I didn't know that I was an interviewer. I didn't know that I just know I like to talk to people.
Mhm.
Now we just press record or we press live stream when we're talking to people and it's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
So like to me, it's all about fun and storytelling, but that creative confidence, I had this up until I was like in my late 30s, had this thing that I was like always going to be a sales guy. And look, I still am, and we got a great business and we do good work for our clients. But at the end of the day, there's so much more to all of us and what we can do. I got four children, Fee, and one of my girls is a singer. And she's an unbelievable singer. She's got a beautiful voice. And a shot in the arm that I think she needs is some of this creative confidence that you're talking about. She works with a vocal instructor, she does all this work, but it's about becoming more and more confident in the work we do. Because at the end of the day, as much as it is from the internal and what we're trying to do for ourselves, it's really difficult not to take serious what outsiders, meaning people who are not us, think. Right. I think it'd be a beautiful thing if we could just do for us.
Mhm.
In a lot of cases, I think I'll speak personally, we respond to the outside world, right? So and then it is vulnerable. You're right on with the vulnerability piece, man, because like, are people going to like it? What's the story there? So this is, I was so excited to read the application for the Imagine Awards, and congratulations again to you and the team for being a finalist, because when I've made such a push on the committee meetings to make sure you guys were semifinalists, because I
Mhm.
was like, this is the Arts and Culture Award, right? We just celebrated 50 years of hip hop music, man. Like this is, I remember being a kid and when I first started listening to rap music and hip hop and be involved with this, Hot 97, New York, Funk Master Flex. I remember listening to Angie Martinez when I was a kid. I mean, and my old man said, yeah, this is not going to last. Like, because he's of that generation and era that would say that, right? Because like this, and now 50 years has gone by. So when I saw your guys' application, I was like, we gotta support this organization. We have to have them make it to the semifinals. Not that there was a lot of argument, but I was getting up on my soapbox and sort of battling. Avenues for Justice is an organization originally founded out of Lower East Side in New York City. They work with young people in an alternative to incarceration program. So they have court advocates, and Gamal Willis is one of those, and he's coming on my show, Long Island Changemakers, later today. But I tell you that because what you're talking about taking your programs and bringing it to other nonprofits. Look, man, I'm the nonprofit sector connector. Like that's what it's about. Like it's all about the relationships. It's all about bringing organizations together. So I'll be talking to Gamal about you and your team, and I want to make that connection. Probably next week we'll make that all happen.
Cool. Well, I
So
appreciate it. Yeah.
yeah, because I think you totally add value, and I mean you're talking about it again. Shout out to Carol Berkowitz. Carol, could some of the community out here on Long Island, use some empowerment for our youth who are battling through some things? I know they can. And I'm on the board of directors fee for an organization called Spirit of Huntington Arts. And Spirit of Huntington Arts Center just built a podcast studio. They're a multimedia arts community there. And I'm pretty sure nobody's out there DJing yet. So we got a lot to talk about. And I'd love to pull you guys out here to Strong Island, as I say. All right, we got to take a break. We come back. What's upcoming for the organization, man? How can I help? Who do you want to connect with? What, like Tommy D, we need a board member. Tommy D, we need this. Actually, you know what? When we come back, before we get into that, I want to hear about Jada and I want to hear about Alberto because I wrote those names down earlier for you and me to talk about. So let's talk about them, their success, and then what's upcoming, how we can help. How's that sound, sir?
Sounds good.
Let's do it. Let's do it. We'll be right back.
On Frank About Health, we're not just talking healthcare. We're managing disruption and innovation. Over the last 4 years, I've taken you from epilepsy and COVID to mental health, caregiving, and now the front lines of healthcare transformation. Stay tuned for a healthier future as we bring on the innovators, professionals, storytellers, and advocates who show you how to own your healthcare every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
Ready to serve up success with a splash? Hi, I'm Bruce Kramer, aka the Corporate Cockroach.
I'm the Renaissance woman, Angie Snowball.
And I'm your strategy doctor, Dr. Navtej Desange, inviting you to serving up success with a splash.
Join us as we shake things up with real talk and real strategies centered around awareness, action, and accountability.
And yes, there really is a cocktail involved. Please join us and sip your way to success.
Serving up success with a splash, where wisdom meets happy hours. Cheers!
Cheers!
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
Let's go. Join Tommy in his attic. The more I hear that song, the more I love that song, the more I realize that we need to upgrade it. So, and that's why I'm bringing it up because I'm just looking at Ari at home. So that's the guy. His Instagram. I don't even shout out other people's stuff, but I'm doing it right now because this guy was really cool. It's Ari at home or Ari Tinsta. Oh, Insta. I got it. Ari Insta. Ari at Insta is I think what it is. Ah, look at that. Good. The guy's got like millions of followers. Really cool guy. Really fun stuff. But I just think like Fee, maybe we got to do like a competition and have like your team, you know, the young people like do a thing maybe in the new year or something where they have to come up with a new theme song for this show or some other content, some other show I'm doing. We play with that, man, because I love that.
Fun.
You want to do that? Yeah, you like that?
Yeah. We'll send it to our students as a challenge. We can make that happen.
Wouldn't that be fun? I think that'd be a lot of fun. Tell me about who's Albert and the super excitement for Albert and both Albert and Jada. Tell me about their stories and then tell me what's upcoming.
Cool. Yeah. Alberto. So he was one of my first students when we first started teaching in New York in 2013. I was teaching a 7th grade class in Bushwick. I was introduced to Alberto and a few of his other peers that we're still in touch with. But Alberto, I think, is just he encapsulates the Building Beats story so well. Building Beats, you know, I think helped him get on his road of the music career, music world. He's also just like a music genius and just can really just make beats on the fly like that. But he ended up going to Clive Davis School of Recorded Music. Went through all that, got signed to some record label that he just makes music for these days. He graduated and now he teaches for us part-time as well. So he goes back into the communities we serve, and we put him in as a teaching artist. And it's just really inspiring to see him just go on the full cycle of students to teacher within the Building Beats world. And I remember, you know, when we gather students together and Alberto shows up, some of our students like, no way, is that DJ Synchro? And it's like he's like a mini celebrity within the Building Beats world. And I think it's, you know, we don't idolize celebrities within our team and culture, but it's just like it's really cool that our students are looking up to some of our other students and that they're their peers, because they can learn that, hey, I can be that one day too. So it just feels so much more real. So when I saw that, you know, some of our students are like, oh my goodness, that's Alberto, I gotta talk to him. Like that's really awesome to see.
And you're like, he's a kid we knew, man. Like he's a kid that came through our programs. But no, he's a celeb in the world, man. I dig that. Shout out to
Yeah,
Alberto. And then, the one thing I wanted to, specifically one of the things that we didn't really mention. Then I want to hear Jada's story real quick too. But many of the students you are serving are in underserved communities and often students in BIPOC communities. Like that's a big part of the mission of the organization. Yes.
for sure. Yeah, that's, primarily we work in spaces that may not have the best resources for arts education, music education.
Yeah, and it's interesting, gang. Arts education and music education critically important, and often the first thing that goes when schools and districts don't hit budget numbers and things like that. So it's often important for organizations, outside organizations, to supplement. So right on that. Who is Jada? What's Jada's story?
Jada, also one of our students. She grew up in Far Rockaway. She got introduced to our work, I think, sometime during her high school days. And Jada is also just, it's amazing seeing where she went. She went off to LA, actually. She went to a film school here to study business. She always had dreams of moving out west, but funny enough, Building Beats always had dreams of moving out west too. So we spent the last 5 years growing our work in LA, and with Jada being out in LA, it's like, yo, you want to teach some of our classes. And the last few years, we've trained her how to become a teaching artist, and she has helped lead a lot of our growth in LA and working with young people out in LA. So it's cool that Jada went from student to kind of helping out our West Coast chapter and trying to bring the Building Beats magic from New York out to the West Coast.
I love that. And talk about grooming our young people to really be the future leaders, right? And being in the work and understanding the work and then doing it as a profession and then having that mindset of give back. What's better than that, man? I want to know, is there an opportunity, and I mentioned the Spirit of Huntington Arts Center, like what's it look like for another community-based organization, another nonprofit organization to say, hey man, I'd like to take maybe a little bit of technical assistance. Can you bring this programming to my organization? Tell me about that. Have you done that?
Yeah, we have two different things, right? We do our BB workshops where we actually bring in our teaching artists and we do the workshops with our community partners. That's been the main thing we've been doing through the years. But we are piloting and launching some new things. One of them called BB for Teachers, where it's like, how do we train other educators to think about our work and integrating it into their programming in some sort of way?
Yes.
So it's a, we call it a train the trainer model, or just like helping integrate kind of our work or curriculum with other partners. And that I think could expand to so many different places. Long Island for sure, but I think it's possible it can be national. We worked with a school in Florida. We've worked with some schools in Connecticut. We're happy to talk to folks all over to help integrate kind of music production or kind of the creative work we do into their classes.
So if somebody's interested in that fee, who are they reaching out to on your team if they want to do that sort of collab?
So they can hit all of us up, just programming at buildingbeats.org. So simple as that. Programming at buildingbeats.org.
Perfect. All right, that's good. We'll make those connections. And Tommy D's got something in the lab himself about we don't even have a real name for it yet, but it is a community that I'm creating for, let's call it working title, the Nonprofit Sector Connector, the community, which is an online community that I'm bringing together a lot of leaders of nonprofits, and we're going to bring some subject matter expertise there. I'm going to bring in some education of my own, but it's going to be a platform, or is already turning into this platform where I can play the connector and where it steps away from me fee. So it's like people are getting together, and then it's not like I don't want to be the bottleneck in relationships, man. I want to be the guy that starts to help to nurture these things and then gets the heck out of the way so things can happen. So more to come on all that. I'm excited about it. Didn't even know I was going to mention it until it came out of my mouth just now. So we'll talk about that. If you want to learn about that, send me an email, TommyD at philanthropyandphocus.com, PHOCUS. So what's upcoming for this organization? What's new? We talk about BB. We talk about, that program, as it relates to bringing and collaborating with other organizations. What do you see as the big vision for your organization?
We're still on that journey. How do we bring our work to the world? I started the story with our first program in Brazil. The national ambitions has always been there, but we know that our headquarters, our team, everything is based in New York, and this is going to be our 12th year in the New York City school programs. So September, this is the time of year where we're setting up our residencies, our partnerships throughout New York, these days throughout LA as well. So if schools, if community partners want to talk, we're definitely down to see if we can set up some sort of partnerships. Long Island included. We do have a teaching artist based down Long Island. Shout out Christina.
Yo, shout out Christina. Whenever you want, Christina. I like iced coffee, so let's sit down and drink iced coffee together because I'm all about the caffeine. But like I've never left this place for more than like 7 days in a row ever. Fee. This is I know a little bit about Long Island, so I'd love to put you guys out here and get you connected to the work we're doing. So Christina, whenever you're ready, let's connect. Let's hook up. I'll get you out to the Spirit of Huntington Art Center. I have that vision. I see it. I see you guys doing programming out here, and I want to be a part of helping. Fee, listen, this has been an awesome conversation. I appreciate you, appreciate your vision, appreciate the work. Gang, even if you're in a lab inspecting a brain of a rat, inspiration to do something completely different can come to you. So even if you're on the assembly line putting things together and you feel a bug or you feel an urge that you can do more or do something different in the world, God, just do it, man. Just freaking do it. Fee, last word before we go.
I just got a +1 on that. Side projects is just that's how I've been able to launch so many things, and building beats was my side project for so long before it became my full-time thing. So
yeah,
I hope it inspires people to work on your nights on weekends on your things you love and try to build it into something new for the world.
That is so good. We'll leave it there. This has been another In Focus production. Your boy Tommy D. Later. Thanks, Fee.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
You're listening to